Breaking news, folks. Daniel Jones has signed with the Vikings practice squad. Yep, we got a whole lot to talk about with that entire situation, okay? You thought I wasn't going to put out an episode before Thanksgiving. Nope. We got to do it. We still have to do it because, wow, we are football junkies, and I have to give you guys the fix that you guys need getting into the start of the holiday season, okay? We also have to talk about the Steelers having cold feet in Cleveland, all right? The Cardinals versus Seahawks game, Vikings versus Bears, Ravens versus Chargers, 49ers and Packers, and Eagles versus Rams, okay? All of this and more on the 51st episode of the greatest football podcast that you could possibly listen to on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis, okay? I am your host with the most, okay? Your GM who currently is not on a team right now, but don't you worry about that, okay? I'm all these things and more, okay? I am your chief Bagrodamus. I am your chief head meteorologist, okay, when it comes to all predictions pertaining to football, the draft, bag alerts, and more, okay? But guess what? I'm your host, Kale. You already know what I'm getting ready to say. We're going to try to see if we can make this episode as loaded as we possibly can. So guess what? On 3, 1, 2, 3, let's lock in. All right, folks, let's get into the meat and potatoes of everything that is going on in the league right now. Okay, so this literally just broke prior to me getting ready to record. Daniel Jones, former New York Giants quarterback, has decided to sign with the Vikings. Okay, so before we get into that, let's take a step back and let's talk about how we got to this point. Prior to the Giants and Buccaneers game that just happened this past Sunday, Brian Daboll decided to bench Daniel Jones and have Tommy DeVito starting. Okay, cool. So as time go forward, he leaves a heartfelt emotional statement during the latest press conference, and then in doing so, he decides to ask for his release, and John Mara decides to grant his release and whatnot. So this is the statement that was put out when the news drop of Daniel Jones being released. So, and I quote, Daniel came to see me this morning and asked if we would release him. We mutually agreed that this would be the best for him and for the team. Daniel has been a great representative of our organization, first class in every way. His handling of this situation yesterday exemplifies just that. We are all disappointed in how things have worked out. We hold Daniel in high regard and have a great appreciation for him. We wish him nothing but the best in the future. Now, before I get into my opinions and whatnot, let's talk about a little bit of business, okay? The Giants will carry a $22.21 million dead cap hit come next year. Now, this is what I will say, okay? And I'm just going to be completely honest here. And, Giants fans, I'm going to try to see if I can, express how you guys are feeling right now. So just buckle in. So this is what I will say. The Giants whiffed on Daniel Jones. And now you're probably thinking, well, why in the world would you say something like that? Leading up to that draft and just looking at, some of the highlights of Daniel Jones and whatnot, even, some of the games as well, there was nothing about Daniel Jones' skill set that screamed, oh, he's a franchise quarterback. Oh, he's going to be a game changer. Oh, he's going to be someone that you can rely on, that you can say, hey, we need you to carry us to victory. That was not Daniel Jones. And the Giants whiffed, and they got him high. Now, granted, if Daniel Jones was drafted in the second, third, fourth, or fifth round, guess what? Nobody would really care, because here you have somebody who overcame the odds and was able to get a good contract. He won some games, he lost some games, and then eventually, had to be released. But if we're being real here, this falls on the Giants. Specifically, this falls on Joe Shane's lap. This doesn't really fall on Brian Daboll's lap. Yes, he did make a dumb decision in, putting in Tommy DeVito instead of Drew Lock or maybe Daniel Jones, or just riding this thing out until the end of the season. Then if you wanted to make that move, you can make that move. but this falls surely on Joe Shane's shoulders. And the reason why I say that is because here you have somebody who we all know benefited off of having Saquon on the field and got paid because of Saquon's influence on the field. And so now that Saquon is not there anymore, now you are seeing someone who is struggling to be able to do the simplistic things that every quarterback was supposed to do. But again, this all goes back to Joe Shane because Joe Shane decided, you know what? I'm going to continue to give Daniel Jones a chance. Instead of just saying, you know what? I think we just need to pivot and understand that we whiffed and maybe go into a different direction and try to bring in somebody else. That's what you should have done from the beginning. Instead of giving him the contract that you gave him. May I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, fellow football junkies, wherever you guys are in the world, let me remind you that this is the same person that was fighting tooth and nail to get a deal when the franchise tag deadline was dwindling. Okay? There was mere seconds before they would have to slap the franchise tag on him. And they were fighting tooth and nail, going back and forth, trying to come together for an agreement. This is what happens when you do not perform. Because the number one thing that everyone says about the NFL is it is a performance-based league. If you are not performing well, someone is going to replace you. They'll eat the dead cat. They'll, make adjustments, whatever they need to do in order to bring somebody else and to move off of you. We've seen it. We see it multiple times every single year. The Broncos are still paying Russell Wilson $30+ million. And Russell Wilson don't even play for the Broncos anymore. He plays for the Steelers. So again, let's be real here, okay? Let's really be honest here. This was a bad situation. But the fact that Daniel Jones, as outstanding as he was, kudos to him, to still want to be involved with this team, they had him play safety during practice. I don't know a whole lot of people that would be willing to do that after I just got benched. I didn't just, get moved to the second string or the third string. No, I am the emergency quarterback. So just in case if all the other three quarterbacks can't play, I'm the literal last option. And he still wanted to do what he needed to do for his team. And that says a lot about him. And kudos to him for it. Now, the only head scratcher that I have in this decision of Daniel Jones going to the Vikings is, why would you go to the Vikings? Now, granted, apparently from multiple sources that have been said, him and Kevin O'Connell have had a really good relationship. And this has started, prior to Daniel Jones getting drafted. So, of course, there was probably some connection there. Now, my only thing is, with him being on the practice squad, that does make it available for him to be able to be signed to another team. So all in all, I don't know if this was a good move or not. I will say this. I would not be surprised if the 49ers would try to snatch up Daniel Jones because, again, they don't know what's going on with Brock Purdy. They don't know how long Brock Purdy is going to be out for. And so if you bring in someone like a Daniel Jones, hey, you never know. I've seen crazier things. But let's get into these games here. So let's talk about the Steelers and Browns game. Yes, it was a horrible game. Yes, I don't like talking about it, but I have to talk about it as a podcaster. So let's just get into it. So Russell Wilson, 21 for 28, 270 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 9.6 yards per attempt, and a 75 completion percentage. Jaylen Warren, 11 attempts, 45 rushing yards, 4.1 rushing yards per carry, 1 touchdown, and 1 rush of 10+ yards or more. Calvin Austin, 3 targets for 3 receptions, 78 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and 26 receiving yards per reception. Jameis Winston, 18 for 27, 219 passing yards, 1 pick, 8.1 yards per attempt, and a 66.7 completion percentage. Nick Chubb, 20 attempts for 59 rushing yards, 3 rushing yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy, 6 targets for 6 receptions, 85 receiving yards, and 14.2 receiving yards per reception. Cleveland has become what we are to the Ravens, all right? Let me break it down to you, okay? So you know how we are dominant against the Ravens and have been, in recent times. That is how the Browns are compared to us, okay? The Browns is the kryptonite for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know what it is, but we have not been super successful in winning against them in Cleveland. The last time that we won in Cleveland against the Browns was Ben's last year. Since then, we have not been successful in doing it. And the record for Tomlin when it comes to Thursday night games is even worse. So I don't know what it is, but the Browns always have our number. And mind you, they're doing this with Jameis Winston. They're not doing this with their starting quarterback. So that that makes it even worse if we're being honest here. Now, this is what I will say. This has to be one of the worst games for Arthur Smith from a play calling standpoint. And the reason why I say that is because there were multiple times and multiple instances where the play calling just did not make any sense, right? If you know that you have Myles Garrett on the left side, why in the world did you not shift the protection to the left side? Or better yet, why wouldn't you put Darnell Washington over there to help Dan Moore? Why wouldn't you do that? Because Myles Garrett was on a tear the entire game. That first half, he was making play after play after play. And after the first fumble, I would have thought, oh, okay, we're going to put somebody over there to help out. That way, slow him down a little bit just so Russ can be able to make a play. But clearly that was not the case. And that is probably one of the reasons why we lost. And I think if we're being real here, I think another pressing issue that is starting to emerge is the lack of ability to convert on second and third downs and the lack of ability when it comes to scoring in the red zone. That is starting to show its ugly head at the worst time. Now, if this was early in the season and they nipped it in the bud, cool. But we are entering the part of the season where every game matters and seeding is going to start, okay? So you can't be having these type of problems now. And you can't say it's a personnel issue. Some of it really is a coaching issue. And better yet, I think since we're talking about the coaching, I think we have to even go to the defense as well, because why in the world do we keep having TJ Watt on one side? Everybody else moves their pass rushers on multiple sides. Micah Parsons, Joey Bosa, Max Crosby, Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett. All of those guys move on multiple sides. They're not just strictly lined up on one side. So you have to do that for TJ Watt if you want him to be able to make plays. I'm sorry here, folks, but you got to be more creative when it comes to the play calling. Because now it's easier for an offense to scheme up something when you're not moving your best defensive player on multiple sides of the ball. You have to do it. When we did it against the Giants, guess what happened? TJ Watt was making plays. Since then, TJ Watt has been quiet. And that's not good. And granted, I get it. You want to be able to do it when Alex Highsmith is in and all of their stuff, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. But guess what? We are trying to position ourselves to have home field advantage for the playoffs. And we cannot do that if we are not willing to make necessary changes and adjustments in real time. Don't wait until halftime. Don't wait until the game is almost over. No, do it actively right then and there. Make that change, because if you make that change, that complexes everything up even more, and that puts more pressure on the offense to scheme up a better play, rather than just saying, okay, TJ, just line up where you normally line up at. No, man, that's not how you do it. That's not how you do it. And by the way, let me go into a little bit of a rant, because I really have to get this off my chest. It's really been bothering me, since he said it. And, Myles Garrett was talking a whole lot of crap, and I mean crap, once the game was over, saying, oh, yeah, everybody was disrespecting me, and, it was disrespectful for TJ Watt not being there when I won the award, blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you something. You just arrived here, brother. TJ Watt, at this point, should be a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. But the reason why he did not get his Defensive Player of the Year award last year was simply because they were tired of TJ Watt winning Defensive Player of the Year awards, and they wanted to give one to Myles Garrett. That's what it was. On top of that, when you have people who rely on the words of PFF, who, by the way, is one of the worst companies when it comes to statistics and grades and whatnot. And we all know damn well that they don't even really describe and break down their process of giving certain grades and breaking down how they do their stats. But everyone loves PFF. Oh, PFF this, PFF that, PFF. But it don't matter. Everyone knew that TJ Watt should have won that award last year because TJ Watt statistically was better than Myles Garrett. He was doing more than what Myles Garrett was doing. And the fact that they did not give it to TJ Watt is an embarrassment. It is a smack in the face. So you mean to tell me that I can do better than what my other opponents are doing and I don't get the award? Of course I'm not going to show up. For what? Because I know that that's my award. Everybody knows that's my award. Everybody knows that. And if we're being real here with Myles Garrett and all Browns fans, guess what? Let me tell you something. Let me tell you who has more sacks than the Myles Garrett. Trey Hendrickson. Oh, you're quiet now. Oh, you don't have anything to say. Yeah, Trey Hendrickson has more sacks than Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. Oh, it's quiet. It's very quiet. It's scary hours. But nobody wants to talk about that, though. See, it's one thing if Myles Garrett has been just as dominant as TJ Watt has been within the last 4 years. They can't really say anything. But you just arrived, bro. You just arrived. Come on. Come on, Myles. What are we doing here? It's like when you go up against your older brother or older cousin and you play them in like 2K or Madden and you finally get a win, but they done beat you like 30 times in a row, but you got that one win. Nobody really cares because guess what? I done beat you 30 some times prior to this point. Congratulations. You want a cookie? Come on. Come on, Browns. Come on. But Russell Wilson was trying to make a comeback in the second half. But then out of the blue, guess what happens? A whole bunch of snow comes, and the next thing you know, it turns into very light, small flakes into just a full-on whiteout blizzard. Okay? And from there on, it just went bad. Now, granted, there was a point where I'm thinking, oh, okay, we might be able to win this game. Nick Herbig, makes a big play, gets the strip sack, and then Dante Jackson makes a pick. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, we're about to seal the game. No. That's not what happened. We lost. But we do have a chance to rewrite our wrongs because we go up against the Bengals on Sunday. Now, granted, it's going to be a shootout because they know that their defense is horrible. But we all know that offense can easily put up 30-something points. No problem. So I'm a little bit excited, but a little bit worried about that game. But we're not going to talk about that, okay? We still got a whole bunch of other games that we got to talk about moving forward. So let's get into this Giants and Bucks game. So Tommy DeVito, 21 for 31, 189 passing yards, 6.1 yards per attempt, and a 67.7 completion percentage. Tyrone Tracy Jr., 9 attempts for 42 rushing yards, 4.7 rushing yards per carry, and 1 rush of 10 plus yards or more. Malik Neighbors, 9 targets for 6 receptions, 64 receiving yards, and 10.7 receiving yards per reception. Baker Mayfield, 24 for 30, 294 passing yards, 9.8 yards per attempt, and a 80 completion percentage, okay? Mike Evans, 6 targets for 5 receptions, 68 receiving yards, 13.6 receiving yards per reception. Bucky Irvin, 12 attempts for 87 rushing yards, 7.3 rushing yards per carry, 1 touchdown, and 1 rush of 10 plus yards or more. Now, this is what I will say, if you are a season ticket holder for the Giants, I just want to let you know, sell them to somebody who haven't been to a football game. Because at this point, there is no need for you to go to any Giants home game. There's no need because guess what? This team, as well as the other New York team, are 2 of the worst teams in the entire league right now. This was an absolute slaughter. You would have thought that Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, John Lynch, and company were on this field, okay? Because guess what? The Giants could not do anything. And by the time they were able to do something, guess what? It was over, okay? I'm talking about game over. I'm talking about biggest letters, okay? And it says game over. There's no countdown, there's no nothing. It's over, okay? This Giants team is horrendous, and it's starting to really eat at the players, okay? Malik Neighbors said a lot, and I thought he was about to crash out, but he didn't. But this is what he says, and I quote, obviously, it ain't the quarterback. Same outcome we had with Jones at quarterback. Take a look. It ain't the quarterback. So what is it? I don't know. Everyone knows better than me. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what it is. I know I'm tired of losing. Go out there, first, second, don't get the ball. Start getting the targets at the end. I mean, can't do that. Start getting the ball when it's 30-0. What do you want me to do? I don't know. Talk to Dable about that. Now, I know it probably sounded a little bit broken up, but I didn't want to say, oh, he said, and I didn't want to try to make it sound like a narrative. But forget about that, okay? If Malik Neighbors is saying this, which it does have some validity to it, then yeah, he does have a point. Because everyone knows that Malik Neighbors is their best receiver on the team. And if you give him the ball, he's going to make a dynamic play. And the fact that you weren't able to give him the ball definitely says a lot. And again, I understand that benching Daniel Jones was a business decision, but you did it at the wrong time. You make those type of moves during the offseason. You don't make them during the season. You don't do that. And granted, I understand that they're tanking so that they can try to get into the Shedeur Sanders sweepstakes, but still, this is horrible. This is absolutely atrocious. This is not good football. And it even sucks worse because guess what? They're playing on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving! Like, really think about this for a second. Imagine you over in your aunt's or, whoever family member's house. Y'all get ready to eat some good food. Get ready to put the game on and whatnot. Everyone asks, so what's the game? What's the first game that's coming on? Cowboys and Giants. Oh, we could just pick up some cards and just, play spades or something. We could just do something else. We don't need to be watching no football because it's just horrible. It's just absolutely horrible. This was a very bad performance. And it's starting to show the frustrations that this team has really, been trying to keep quiet about, but they can't do it. When you have Dexter Lawrence that is, sort of saying the same thing that Malik Neighbors is saying. When you have Brian Burns saying the same thing as well. Hey, man, where there's smoke, there is fire. And this is the fire that is continuing to grow bigger and bigger as the weeks continue. Now, in this situation, the blame goes on both Brian Dable and Joe Schoen. And the reason why I say that is because Brian Dable made the decision to bench Daniel Jones. He should have just continued to keep them out there, as I've said, earlier on into this episode. Because again, Tommy DeVito isn't going to give you a fair shot at trying to win a game. It's not. I'm sorry. No disrespect to Tommy, but bro, you're not that guy, pal. Trust me, you're not that guy. Okay. And I get it. They're doing this because they're trying to prepare themselves for the future. Blah, 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 blah. I get that. But still, this is not the time to be making a decision. And honestly, well, you know what? I'm going to wait. I'm going to save that for the Eagles and Rams game. Now, let's get into this Cardinals and Seahawks game. So, Kyler Murray, 24 for 37, 285 passing yards, 1 interception, 7.7 yards per attempt, and a 64.9 completion percentage. Trey Benson, 14 attempts for 18 rushing yards, 4.5 rushing yards per carry. Trey McBride, 15 targets for 12 receptions, 133 receiving yards, 11.1 receiving yards per reception. Geno Smith, 22 for 31, 254 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 8.2 yards per attempt, and a 71% completion percentage, all right? Kenneth Walker, 16 attempts for 41 rushing yards, 2.6 rushing yards per carry, and 1 rush of 10-plus yards or more. JSN, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, 7 targets for 6 receptions, 77 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, 12.8 receiving yards per reception. Now, when we look at this was a heavyweight bout between two of the best teams within their division, okay? And ultimately, it was the Seahawks that came out with their hand raised high. But I will say this, I would not be surprised if both of these teams sneak into the playoffs. I wouldn't. The Cardinals are just as dangerous as the Seahawks are, okay? And mind you, the Cardinals are doing this with less talent than what the Seahawks have. But all in all, this does show that Trey McBride has emerged and has submitted himself as one of the primary weapons for Kyler Murray. I'm sorry here, folks, but Trey McBride has been dominant, okay, since last year, maybe even the year before that, okay? I don't know what it is, but every time this guy gets the ball, he is making a play. He is making the big play. But I will say this, that Seahawks defense, they're going to be a problem in the playoffs. I do believe that because they have playmakers on both sides of the ball. From DK Metcalf to Tyler Lockett to Tyreek Woolen and Leonard Williams and company, this team has the pieces to give any NFC team a problem. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be super dominant and they're going to, shut a team down completely. No. But will they give a team problems? Yes, most definitely. You heard it here first on the Football Junkies podcast. Now, let's get into this Vikings and Bears game, even though it really wasn't a game, and that Bear is basically dead at this point in juncture of the season. But let's just get into everything. So, Sam Darnold, 22 for 34, 330 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 9.7 yards per attempt, and a 64.7 completion percentage. Aaron Jones, 22 attempts for 106 rushing yards, 4.8 rushing yards per carry, 1 touchdown, and 3 rushes of 10-plus yards or more. Jordan Addison, 9 targets for 8 receptions, 162 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, 20.3 receiving yards per reception. Caleb Williams, 32 for 47, 340 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 7.2 yards per attempt, and a 68.1 completion percentage. DeAndre Swift, 13 attempts for 30 rushing yards, 2.3 rushing yards per carry. DJ Moore, 7 targets for 7 receptions, 106 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and 15.1 receiving yards per reception. Now, when we look at this, the Vikings have a recipe. And that recipe is, as long as they score more than 30 points, most likely they are going to win. But when they do not score 30 points, when they don't hit that magical number, guess what happens? It makes it very much harder for them to win the game. And it shows because according to NFL Pro, shout out to them, the Vikings are 8-0 when holding opponents to fewer than 30 points and 0-2 when allowing 30-plus points this season so far. Now, I will say this. The Bears are trying, despite the, circumstances that they're in, they still keep on trying to fight. And they were. They definitely were. Kudos to them. This was a close game, as most divisional games are. But again, when you have bad coaching and when the team is just not in a position to win, this is what happens. Because let's be real here. The Bears at this point, at this juncture of the season, they are ready for the season to be over, okay? I can guarantee you right now, half of those players have already talked to their agents, talked to their family, figured out what they're going to do moving forward. They probably already booked their, vacations that they're going to be taking in the summer. Already talked to their agents, let them know, hey, listen, get me the hell out of here. I don't care what you have to do. Figure out a way, create a narrative to get me the hell out of Chicago, because at this point, let's just be real here, okay? And let's just address the elephant in the room. Most likely, this entire coaching staff is going to be cleaned, okay? They're going to hit the nuke button, and they're going to get rid of everybody. From the head coach to the defensive coordinator to the intern, offensive coordinator, everybody's just going to go. They're just going to want to create a clean slate for Caleb Williams because they understand that they invested a lot into getting Caleb Williams, and they want to make sure that they do right by him and rewrite the wrongs that they have done with previous quarterbacks in Mitchell Trubisky as well as Justin Fields. Now, moving on to other games that we need to talk about, okay? We have to talk about the Ravens and Chargers game. So Lamar was 16 for 22, 177 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 yards per attempt, and a 72.7 completion percentage. Derrick Henry, 24 attempts for 140 rushing yards, 5.8 rushing yards per carry, and 4 rushes of 10-plus yards or more. Zay Flowers, 8 targets for 5 receptions, 62 receiving yards, 12.4 receiving yards per reception. Justin Herbert, 21 for 36, 218 passing yards, 6.1 yards per attempt, and a 58.3 completion percentage. J.K. Dobbins, 6 rushes for 40 rushing yards, 6.7 rushing yards per carry, and 2 rushes of 10 plus yards or more. Ladd McConkey, 6 targets for 6 receptions, 83 receiving yards, and 13.8 receiving yards per reception. Now, this is what I will say. Ladd McConkey has lived up to the expectations that I had for him coming out of Georgia, okay? This guy is a playmaker, and for him to be paired up with Justin Herbert is a great situation, and I hope that, that relationship continues to build as time progresses. But this is what I will say. The Ravens, they got their win, and this puts more pressure on the Steelers to want to continue to try to increase their lead as the season continues to narrow and as we begin to enter into the playoffs. But do not count out the Chargers. Do not count out the Chargers. And the reason why I say that is because at this point, we all know the Chiefs are going to be, probably the number 1 or number 2 seed within the AFC. But under them, the Broncos and the Chargers right now are fighting to get into the playoffs. And if we're being real here, I do believe the Chargers may sneak into the playoffs. I do. Now, is that because of they have the best record? Is it because of, of a technicality? I don't know. But this Chargers team is not a team that you can sleep on because they are just as dangerous as they are in the run game as well as the passing game. And that defense as well has been balling out as well. So do not sleep on the AFC because right now the AFC is in a toss-up. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what everyone is saying about the Chiefs and whatnot. It is anyone's ball at this point for the AFC. Now for the NFC, it's a little bit more trickier. But for the AFC, oh man, it's going to get down to the nitty gritty. It's going to get down to the last game of the season for a lot of these teams to really know, okay, who's really in there, who's not in there, who's going to be facing who in the playoffs, who's going to be having home field advantage. I cannot wait for all of it because I know it's going to be phenomenal. Now let's talk about some NFC matchups, okay? 49ers and Packers, okay? Brandon Allen, 17 for 29, 199 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 6.9 yards per attempt, and a 58.6 completion percentage. Christian McCaffrey, 11 attempts for 31 rushing yards, 2.8 rushing yards per carry. George Kittle, 6 targets for 6 receptions, 82 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and 13.7 receiving yards per reception. Jordan Love, 13 for 23, 163 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 7.1 yards per attempt, and a 56.5 completion percentage. Josh Jacobs, 26 attempts for 106 rushing yards, 4.1 rushing yards per carry, 3 touchdowns, 3 rushes of 10 plus yards or more. Romeo Doubs, 6 targets for 3 receptions, 54 receiving yards, and 18 receiving yards per reception. Now, I'm beginning to wonder if this is the final curtain call for the 49ers at this point because, it's been hard for them this season. It really is. And, their remaining schedule does not help them at all, okay? Because when you look at it, their next opponents, their final opponents, the Bills, the Bears, the Rams, the Dolphins, the Lions, and the Cardinals. I can tell you right now, it is going to be a fight. And even then, I don't even think if they were to win at least 3 of their 4, next games, I don't even know if it would still put them in a good position. I just don't. This team has gone through hell and high water this season, and who knows if they can really get to, the NFC Championship. Because right now, the Eagles are getting hot at the perfect time of the season. The Lions are continuing to be dominant. Now, can they go on a crazy run and, maybe win, a few games and probably try to soften the blow a little bit and maybe try to see if they can sneak into the wild card? Yes, they probably could. But even then, it's not a guarantee that they will be able to overcome their struggles that they're having on both sides of the ball. Kyle Shanahan did say that he is opening up the practice window for Dre Greenlaw. Maybe that'll be able to, put a little bit of juice into the team, and who knows. But just know this, there are 6 weeks left and anything can happen. But let's get into this Eagles and Rams game, okay? So Jalen Hurts, 15 for 22, 179 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 8.1 yards per attempt, 68.2 completion percentage, okay? Saquon, the quad, got 26 attempts for 255 rushing yards, 9.8 rushing yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, and 3 rushes of 10 plus yards or more. A.J. Brown, 7 targets for 6 receptions, 109 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, 18.2 receiving yards per reception. Matthew Stafford, 24 for 36, 243 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 6.8 yards per attempt, and a 66.7 completion percentage. Puka Nacua, 13 targets for 9 receptions, 117 receiving yards, 13 receiving yards per reception. Kyron Williams, 16 attempts for 72 rushing yards, 4.5 rushing yards per carry, 1 touchdown, and 3 rushes of 10 plus yards or more. Now, when we look at this was one of the most dominant games that Saquon Barkley has had in his career so far. This game alone pushes the narrative of him winning the MVP this year, all right? Here's a junkie nugget for you, okay? Barkley only needs 608 more yards within the next 6 games in order to get 2,000 yards. He will need to average 126.5 rushing yards per game, and I believe that he can do it. Right now, at this point in juncture, I have to update my MVP list, okay? So as of right now, I would say it's between Lamar, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley. Each of those players right now are, statistically speaking, having historical seasons this year. And right now, I do believe that the only way that Saquon could lock in the MVP is if he crosses over 2,000 rushing yards in one season. If he does that and probably goes to the Super Bowl, oh, that's it. He won it. Fair and square. Now, this goes back to, a certain someone that, said, oh, who in the world would want to pay 11 or 12 million to a running back? There's no need to do that. And, oh, we're going to let you, hit free agency and test the market and, see, where you are. And hopefully you get back to us so that, we can try to get you a deal. Yeah, Joe Shane, I'm calling you out because you know why? You decided to let Saquon walk, okay? It'll be different if, you guys couldn't afford him or you guys were strapped for cash or, any of those different types of things. But you could have easily afforded Saquon Barkley. And he told you that he wanted to be with the Giants. And instead, you just allowed him to walk. May I remind you that there's not a whole bunch of Saquon Barkleys just walking around in the league, okay? Saquon Barkley is a one-of-one running back who demands what he demands, okay? The Eagles were willing to pay what he paid because they knew that once they add someone like a Saquon Barkley to their team, it's going to put them in a whole different stratosphere. And right now, if they continue on this trajectory of winning, they could easily position themselves to where they can let everybody else hash things out and then just, dismantle whoever they want to dismantle in the NFC Championship and then just go to the Super Bowl. But I really want to leave this note before we end this episode here. When we really look at that whole situation, that whole offseason for the Giants, they essentially traded for Brian Burns, and in return, they released Daniel Jones and let Saquon Barkley hit the free agency market. Now, it's no disrespect to Brian Burns, not at all, but I really want you to think about this here, folks. Why would you let a generational talent in Saquon Barkley just walk and hit the free agency market and not even try to fight to bring him back? If you try to, hash things out and you guys just couldn't get a deal done, then okay, perfectly fine. But you didn't even put up a fight. You just let him walk. And granted, I understand that they got Tyrone Tracy and he's been playing, really well. But Tyrone Tracy can't do the things that what Saquon Barkley could do. Really think about that. Let me know how you feel about that in the comments on the Instagram, football_junkiespod, okay? Football_junkiespod. But I'm going to end this episode here. So, as always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Happy Thanksgiving. Make sure you spend time with your family and friends. Make sure you guys just, take some time to yourself, unwind, take a break, relax, catch up on that show, catch up on that game, do whatever. Now, make sure that you follow the Football Junkies podcast on everywhere that we are available, okay? We are available on the YouTube, Football Junkies Pod, okay? Football Junkies Pod. When you go on there, when you go in the channel description, there are links, multiple links. Okay, you click on any of those links, it takes you to all the other places that we have Football Junkies content right now. Okay, whether that be the RSS feed, Apple Podcast, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, it's in that description with all of those links. Okay, we also have a link tree as well. It actually makes it a little bit more easy for you to go wherever you need to go. Now, for everybody, for all my fellow junkies, okay, make sure you guys download the episodes, like, share, subscribe, turn the notification bell on, do whatever you need to do with this content here, okay? Make sure you leave a 5-star review as well on anywhere that you listen to the Football Junkies podcast, okay? As always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need just to start your Thanksgiving off on the right foot, okay? Now, for my Instagram people, Football_Junkies pod, okay? Football_Junkies pod. Junkies pod is not what? It is together, not spaced, okay? It is together, not spaced. Football_Junkies pod. Junkies pod is together, not spaced, okay? For my TikTok people, Football Junkies pod, okay? Football Junkies pod. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to try if I can, create some clips during the holiday weekend. Maybe put out a few here, there, everywhere. I don't know. Just stay tuned for that. I'll keep you guys posted. But as always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for supporting me. Thank you guys for helping me get to this point. And just know next year will even be a bigger and better and greater year than what this year was for the Football Junkies podcast. But I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Happy Thanksgiving to those that celebrate Thanksgiving, and to those that don't, happy Turkey Day, whatever you want to call it. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Make sure you guys don't drink and drive. If you're a little bit under the influence, hey, take a Uber, take a Lyft, do whatever. All that and more. Peace and love. I'm out.